Hi there. This is Kyaa Chimera, aka Goddess Kyaa, and you are watching John the Ninja. You can see my interview here and then go look me up. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And if you just search Kyaa Chimera, Kyaachimera, you can find all of my spicy content across the internet.
Breaking character. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? It's John the Ninja live in the dojo, aka the Dojang. And you know it's the John the Ninja Studios, Portland, stand up. Actually, a couple of places, New Zealand, and you know what? Multitude of places around the world because the mademoiselle I have here with us today, you would call her a goddess, depending if you're part of her religion. She has not only traveled the world, but she's done extensive research in all sorts of art. Now, some people might say it's not art. I disagree. People don't like heavy metal, and I love that art. But she is what you would call a dominatrix master. And she's earned her place with over 15 years, not only doing BDSM, but also pushing on over 20 in the adult film industry. Now, it is a
That's
little
true.
complex, it is a little nuanced. So let me give you the quick crash course. At 18, she kind of knew this was the route she wanted to go, even though she was in school and did get her degree in English literature and was going to go be a teacher. She wanted to really dive into her sexuality along with a multitude of other things. So she went to her first munch. For us people who don't know what that is, that's kind of a gathering of people in the BDSM community. And from there, from a video from spitting into a cup to winning the XMA Fetish Creator Awards just this year, she's really made a great name for herself, not only in the BDSM community, but the adult entertainment world. The Mademoiselle, we have two names for her, depending on which side. If you are part of her religion, Goddess Kai is the real name. We don't mess around with that. Y'all gotta say it right. And we also have the adult entertainment name, Kyaa Chimera. Now, don't be confused with the wrestler of the same name. Miss Chimera is one of the most sought out of BDSM dominatrices of all time. She literally got Mark Maron to get on his knees and get. So we'll get into that. But first and foremost, we must introduce our guest, Mademoiselle, ladies and gentlemen, Kyaa Chimera. Miss, how are you doing today?
Hi, what an intro. I love that. You usually get on these things and I got to give my little spiel, say about where I came from, my history. You've done your research, sir. You know what's going on. I love that.
Thank you, thank you. It's only respect because you put so much work not only into your job but your life. And I just really love the fact that you're so well versed in all these different fields. Like a lot of people didn't know you studied the idea.
Marine biology. I grew up on the coast and I spent time as a kid like volunteering at the Marine Research Center and I'm still just, an avid lover of all things ocean biology. I'm honestly one of those people who researches everything. The best thing to know is how to learn. And that's something that I learned at a young age. I figured out. And so if I find myself interested in a subject, I'll deep dive. I'll spend days, weeks, months, years just reading on the subject, absorbing articles and books and podcasts and talks on it because I want to know everything. So that's just one of the many subjects I have an insane amount of knowledge on.
I do have to ask about the tattoo.
So yeah, on this side I have uh this is an emperor octopus with a little crown even. And on this side is a fire salamander. So each of my limbs has an element associated with it. Water, fire. My right leg is air and my left leg is earth. And then I've got this really gorgeous back piece. I can only show you so much of it on here, but I've got this sacred geometry back piece that kind of ties it all together.
I know specifically that the octopus was based off the actual living octopus that you are aware of. I wanted to know the story behind that because they're not as big. They're not like the whales or the elephants, but they're one of the smarter, like, hey, they definitely know what's happening.
An octopus is basically a giant living brain. The whole thing is just a nervous system. And they're crazy intelligent. If you watch videos on TikTok or YouTube, you can see them solving puzzles, communicating with their handlers. And one of the things I did when I was at the Marine Research Center as a young one was spend time testing and training and then helping with experiments that they were doing with a young emperor octopus, which is a very specific type of like deep purple and blue octopus that lives on the Pacific coast. And they're one of the largest octopuses. And yeah, they're very smart, very wily. They can open jars and solve puzzles. Very food or motivated. So if you put a little shrimp or a bit of fish in something and they have to unscrew it or do some latches, they'll figure it out and just get it right out of there. It's amazing.
And you also still volunteer. You do cleanups for beaches and tide pools. I wanted to know for somebody like me who also enjoys the ocean. I love space. I love ocean. I love
Hmm.
that we have these either grander or smaller worlds
Yeah.
that we can access. For somebody like me who's has interest in it, what's the best way you would direct me to go find a way to like, hey, you could go to the local aquarium.
Google search beach cleanup in your area. If you live near a beach, there are beach cleanups. There are people organizing that and they're going out. Just look up your nearest beach cleanup. And, obviously you can also look up aquariums and see if they have volunteer work available because sometimes they do, even just for being a greeter or, helping when there's schools in there to just like guide kids around. There's a lot of different ways that you can give back to that. But I'd say the number one thing you can do is just think about your own personal habits and don't litter. Try to minimize the use of plastics and other, non-biodegradables in your life where possible. I know that's very hard in this day and age, but, try not to throw things out unnecessarily. Reduce, reuse, recycle. And when you see trash, especially someplace like the beach or a park, pick it up.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. Remember that rap phrase, people. We're going to bring it back later. Mademoiselle, you're also into fashion, and as much
That I am.
of nerd culture and everything, I had to ask,
Oh, yeah.
when did you get into fashion, and was David Bowie a big influence on you for that? Because I'm seeing a little Bowie.
Okay. Okay. You're picking up on things. I'm also non-binary, queer person. David Bowie, very famously genderqueer. And for me, I find one of the things really hot in fashion and just something that's striking is a mixing of genders. People also call me daddy. I'm very daddy coded. I mean, obviously I play MILF and I do mommy stuff as well, but that's the fun of being non-binary. I don't have to pick one side or the other. I can do both. And yeah, definitely fashion has been something I've always loved. When I first started doing pro doming, I discovered, oh, if you just dress up really cute, it makes guys go pretty dumb. And from there, I just started getting more and more into fashion. And I really enjoy couture, boutique stuff. A lot of what I wear is designer or handmade. I like things that are unique. You will not often see me unless I'm like wearing something disposable because I'm going to be in a scene where it's going to get ruined. Cheap or mass manufactured stuff. I wear a lot of boutique one-off kind of things.
A lot of the fashion I've seen you have, at least when you're modeling, say for the cosplay or the role play, a lot of it seems to be back to the time, at least when I was growing up, the time you were around in your 20s, that early 2000s. And that was an interesting time for fashion.
The XBiz Awards this year, I wore a designer dress, which I got through Rent the Runway, and I believe it was multicolored, sparkly. I'd have to double check because I wore a lot of different dresses. Right now, one of the things I'm really into is this thing called Rent the Runway, where you can rent designer dresses. I wear so many designer dresses. I realize I'm like, why am I buying these things when I can only wear them a couple of times? You can't be wearing the same dress over and over again to all of these events. So I started renting designer dresses and I freaking love it because I get to try out so many different things and different designers. It's really, really fun. But yeah, I do have some very classic early 2000s dresses like American Apparel or other brands that just don't exist anymore before flash, like when flash fashion was just starting, but they were good dresses still made with cotton and decent sewing. But now, American Apparel doesn't even exist for good reason. We could get into a whole other discussion of the man who ran that and his issues. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't like buy Shein or some of those other really, really cheap stuff because they don't fit well, they don't look great on me. I prefer things that tend to be a little higher end or vintage.
One story I absolutely adore is when you were younger, you went around the neighborhood getting 25 cents from everybody, and then you went and bought ice cream for all the kids, and
You're
then
like deep diving in some other interviews I've done here. I can tell.
it all combines to where you are now. And I just find that fascinating, especially at such a young age. You had this hustle and
Yeah.
you had this idea of like, oh, I want to be in control. I want to be the one. I wanted to know, was that your first true hustle?
That's a story like I barely remember. I was like 4 years old when my mom told me that story of like when I was a kid. Because I told her I'm a dom, and she's like, I'm not surprised. You've always been the type to like get everyone in line. I guess I just came out into this world being like, do as I say. I want to be in charge, want to be the boss. And I've never been great at doing as I'm told, frankly, especially if it's adverse to what I think is a good thing to do or what I want to do. And I'm always going to tell people if there's a better way to do it. One of the jobs I had when I was in university, I was working at this cafe, slinging coffee in the mornings before class, and I told the owner like, "Oh, this thing could be done better. We could do this whole system better. It would save you money and it would make work easier for all of the baristas." And he's like, "No, we've been doing it this way. It's fine. Don't bother with it." And I just did it anyway. I just rearranged things and made it better anyway. He was so mad. And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. I will just leave. Goodbye. I quit right now." He's like, "In the middle of your shift?" I'm like, "Yeah, I really don't care. If you're gonna be weird, I'm out." Because if I'm trying to make things better for everyone, don't come to me and act like I'm making trouble.
But that also ties into the statement that you said that people are still having the stigma against strong women, strong personalities.
It's
One
true.
one thing I did really want to touch on was the family dynamic because you said, like you said, fired from every job, you were considered the firecracker, but you've come to a point now where you're the first lady in your family generationally, and then some, where you didn't have to depend on a man, you had your own money, and you really could make your own decisions.
Yeah.
And from a
Yeah.
young age, you saw, hey, the family's not going to be able to support me. I don't want to put that on my parents. I don't want to put that burden on them. And you've
Yeah.
gone from taking care of yourself to taking care of your siblings, taking care of your mother. I wanted to know, did you have a moment where you felt like a family curse was broken or a change in that dynamic finally was cemented with all of your success?
I realized at a young age that I was not going to go down the same path as everyone in my family, my hometown, or just women traditionally in general. Um, that the idea that I would marry and have kids and have this small, predictable life was not something I was interested in. And I have the person who mainly raised me throughout my teenage years, where I traveled and who helped me get into university, is my auntie and my mother's sister. She's the first person in my family, the first woman to go to college, first person and first woman to go to university. She has a doctorate from UC Berkeley. She's badass, awesome lady. She still lives overseas. She's just a jet setter. She does whatever the F she wants. And she showed me what was possible. Now, she's straight. She's, is with men. But for me, while I'm bisexual, I'm homoromantic. So for me, I don't cop feelings for guys. I like to have some fun, but I don't catch feelings for men. I catch feelings for girls, like passing by a pretty girl on the street. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm in love. uh, but I'm married to a woman, and I love taking care of her. I love being the breadwinner. I love being that person who cares for others. That it's fulfilling to me. And whatever generational curses or burdens may be on me from my past, I feel like I broke a long time ago. And that's really common with a lot of women still these days. Women only got the right to have our own bank accounts in 1979, and there is an active push currently against women having freedom and autonomy financially or in romantic relationships. I mean, there are people in our government pushing to take away the right for women to have divorce or to even choose whether or not they get married at all. And so to me, it's not about breaking something from the past. I'm standing out now, currently, against the tide that is trying to push women into these little boxes where they're controlled by men. And it feels very empowering, but also it's kind of a dangerous feeling. I'm very aware that there are people out there that don't like me because I have the level of freedom that I have as a woman, that I don't depend on a man. And I'm very aware that I have to watch my back and protect myself energetically and physically in this world because there are men who don't like the freedom that I have.
And I remember in one interview you were mentioning how you finally, there was a moment at a convention, and then after the convention, you were out in public and you realized somebody saw you in public and was like, "Oh, I know who you are." And you realized your anonymity was no
Yeah,
longer there. And
it's been a
just
few years now.
and you've been dabbling, I want to say
Yeah,
dabbling, that's not as respectful. You're pretty much well versed with different, not just ideologies, but different religions. You've done tarot
yeah,
card readings. When it
yeah.
comes to when that moment happened and you knew your anonymity, you couldn't just walk freely, what were some things you put in place spiritually and physically to ensure your safety?
I mean, physically, I don't fill my gas tank up after dark. I don't walk to my own car from an event. I always have a friend come with me. I'm very cautious in my situational awareness and making sure that I'm protected. I also have some training. I will not talk too much about that, but I'm very capable of defending myself. Let's just say that. Um, that said, spiritually, it's different for everyone, but one of the things that I think is really powerful for anyone, especially if you feel like there's negative energy coming at you from other people, is grounding. You have to process that negative energy that's coming at you and release it. Let that energy go back and return the energy that other people want to put on you to them. A little bit of like it bounces off of me and back to you kind of thing. And there's a multitude of rituals that one can do, but one of my favorite things is to just imagine roots growing out of my bottom and into the earth, and then reaching up with the leaves of the tree that is me into the air and pulling in that oxygen, pulling in that healthy energy, and then processing down out through my roots any negativity and releasing that out into the earth, which can recycle that energy.
Now, we're definitely going to get to the religious aspect of your personality. I'm telling you, people, she legitimately has a religion. I'm very fascinated by how that started, but I really wanted to dive in. The biggest thing is I always fathom at relationships. And one thing that really caught my attention is when you were talking about when you were looking for somebody, you were still doming in Portland, back to Oregon. You in your head said, where's my, I don't want to say slave, but where's my person of interest in?
Mm.
And,
That person who will be truly dedicated to me the way that my energy craves.
and then lo and behold, Fat Life, you get reached out to the
Yeah.
individual, now your wife, a trans woman basically put it out there and said, "Hey, I don't have money, but I'm willing to go the distance." And you said the first date you got the feeling it was different. Now, considering
Yeah.
you've had these experiences, not just sexual, but romantically and just talking to people, were you able to rectify what that energy was? Was it just you guys were on the same energy level and wanted the same things? Was
You
it,
know, before her, I wouldn't have said that I believe in like true love at first sight. Like you can love someone and fall that little bit in love with a stranger on the bus. Anyone can do that, especially if you have a romantic mind like me, being a double water sign. Uh, but there was something different about her, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Um, because I traditionally fall for people and then lose interest after a few months. Like I get that NRE and I want to play and I want to consume a person, but then I'm like, I move on and I'm ready for something new. I even told her, I was like, once I was ready to say, like, I want to date you and not just have you serve me, I really like you. And she's like, yes, please, ma'am. I'm like, but be warned, I don't know if I'm going to feel this way in 6 months or a year, much less longer than that. I tend to fall in and out very easily. And I just don't, I don't want you to have false expectations that this can be something more than it is. But within 6 months, I was absolutely sure that this was it for me. And within 2 years, I had her marry me in a hand fasting and collaring ceremony.
Now, people, just so you know, there's an actual collar. Don't get any ideas now, unless you're in the community. It's going to confuse you.
It's a symbol of love. The same way a ring is a circle of metal that goes around someone's body to symbolize their commitment and their dedication. She does that for me. I got this tattoo for her, which is a symbol of water because her name is Rhea, Riverenza.
With the relationship dynamic,
Hmm.
to know how you guys are able to communicate. Because
Hmm.
story you said you guys were doing your thing, and then she came up to you and said, "Hey, I think I need to be treated more of a princess."
Hmm. I mean, that's just communication. If you follow BDSM community or if you're in BDSM and you understand BDSM dynamics, especially if somebody's you can have a BDSM dynamic where it's very strictly just sub and dom, and there's less wiggle room for how that will happen because it's within very narrow confines of how we expect to treat each other. Like myself and maybe some of my personal subs that live here in LA, um, we're not in a romantic relationship at all. It's strictly I am a dom, you are a sub. We session, you do service for me. I'm not emotionally beholden to you, and you're not really emotionally beholden to me. It's an exchange of energy and power, though. Whereas I married her and I put it in hand passing ceremony. I said, this is not just a dom sub. You are my wife, my love, my best friend. And as a result, I mean, yes, we have a BDSM dynamic, but we're also just best friends. We cuddle on the couch and hang out and read books and, share cats and just have a life together the way any married couple might. Maybe not every married couple, but the way they should, I think. And when she expresses a need or an interest or a desire to me, I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to tune into that the same way she will me. And in that way, we feed into each other. And we're very poly. So besides the fact that I do all the kinky and fun things I do professionally, I can also enjoy whatever I want personally. And neither of us experience jealousy. We experience compersion. And compersion is the opposite of jealousy or envy, where you feel happy that another person is doing something, happy that they have something that you might not, because you see that somebody you care about is experiencing pleasure, joy, fulfillment in some way. It doesn't have to involve you because you see the person you care about being happy. So, I have so many people I can beat up, everybody. And also, just over the years, I've realized that people who do hardcore BDSM submission go through phases and cycles in their life. And they might go through a phase or a cycle where they enjoy extreme, hardcore, fucked up sessions, but maybe their pain tolerance shifts. Maybe their psychology shifts. Maybe they work through something in their head and now they're craving something else. And it is your job as a Dom, if you really care about a sub, to shift with that.
I love how you pretty much put the dynamic out there because a lot of people's minds, it's still pulp fiction-y. It's like it's the whole time and it's in the darkness and it's some weirdly out of pocket situations where
Mhm.
the real community in BDSM is all about, are we on the same level? Are we on the same agreement? Is everything comfortable?
Communication and consent are key. Nothing else works without that because you will have people develop resentments or um, even push themselves, especially subs. They want to make their Dom happy and they will push themselves to do things they're not actually comfortable with and don't want to do just to please someone. I mean, any people pleaser, even if they're not into BDSM out there, knows what that's like. And as a Dom, it's my job to figure out where are their actual limits versus the limits they claim to have because they really want to be so good and help them stay within that. Sometimes as a Dom, you have to literally tell someone, no, I won't hit you more. No, I won't beat you up anymore or do this thing to you. I won't do some extreme crazy thing to you because I know you're only trying to do that to make me happy. So you have to, you know, think a little deeper than the surface.
What are some of the tricks you've learned in the trade that help you see what your submissive is trying to get at? Um, Most of the time when I'm in the public, I have to watch body language and then I have to listen to
Yeah.
what they say. Sometimes that doesn't match up, but that's very amateur compared to what you're doing as far as dealing with people that They may come to you and say, "Hey, I don't have a limit." It's really
Somebody comes to me and says that, I will tell them to literally go away and find their limits. At this point in my life, I don't need subs who are so unaware of themselves.
I've been warned about that too. I've been told if you ever meet somebody that says they don't have a limit, they everybody has a limit. What is it about not knowing about that limit that is such a red flag?
Because it's just saying that they don't have any idea of what they actually want, which means that anything you do could actually be something they don't like, and they don't even know that yet because they haven't thought about it. And if somebody isn't going to have a teensy tiny thought about what they actually want before they approach me, then they haven't thought about me and what they actually want with me at all anyway. It's just a vague idea. It's like somebody, if they had a business plan and you're a business manager and they come to you and they go, I want to run a business. And they're like, okay, what kind of business? They're like, I don't know. And you're like, go away. If you don't have an idea, if you don't have a plan, if you haven't thought about this at all, I'm not going to come up with everything for you. That's not my job. Now, somebody approached me and said, I'd like to talk about BDSM so I can learn more about my limits and explore what I might be into. Well, then I can start baby handing out tasks and assignment to try this fetish, explore that thing, go watch this video, go look at this, and tell me, how does it make you feel? How do you react in your body, in your mind to seeing these images? Um, if somebody comes to me and says, oh, I have no limit, Goddess, do anything, I'm like, okay, so can I take your Amex, spend every last dollar on it, and then nail your balls to a board and leave you in public? No? Okay. So you have limits. We've just found some. Go explore the rest of your limits and then come back to me.
But there was one story, you have a lady, she likes needle play. And as somebody
Hmm.
that's worked in a pharmacy, somebody who's already a germaphobe, gotta wash my hands all the time, I'm sitting here like, I can only imagine the classes you had to sit through to learn that style of what is the Hellraiser phrase they use where it's like pleasure, the true
Hmm.
pleasure.
Yes,
That would
yes. Anything can be pleasure. Any stimulation can be pleasurable. Okay, well, yeah, needle play is a fun one and definitely kind of more on the extreme side of what people think of within BDSM. But I mean, I've taken all your first aid, CPR, personal protection equipment and other, things for how to clean and prep areas when you're doing something like piercings or whatever. And then I've also taken classes on how to place needles from people who have done that for years. And I've always enjoyed kind of the more shocking or extreme side of things. And needles are something I've always found beautiful. Early on in exploring what BDSM is on the internet, when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I saw these photos where people would place needles on people in like the shape of mandalas or beautiful patterns with just like these needles spiraling out on someone's back. And I was like, that is gorgeous art. And you know that the canvas, the person who's the canvas for that art, had to go into a deeply meditative state to let this happen to their body. And I found that so beautiful. And this stretches back further. I do my research and I find out, well, there are a bunch of different native cultures around the world, here in America and elsewhere, that have done things like flesh hooks, where somebody might have like full-on hooks placed into their flesh in their chest or back, and then hung from those for ritualistic purposes. And to me, I find it really fascinating to use BDSM as a vehicle to the spiritual. And one of the ways that many cultures induce deeply spiritual experiences is through pain, through aesthetic pain. And this is true with Christianity. There are monks that whip themselves on the back till they bleed, or kneel on the floor until their knees are bruised. Um, Pain and suffering is a way to clear thoughts, to literally flush your body with endorphins, to leave yourself open to aesthetic experiences.
That actually hits it the nail on the head with my question because you have a particular sub who was really into that super
Hmm.
extreme, but there was this statement you made that it got her out of her depression. It
Yeah.
actually got her to start going to therapy. And then I'm also sitting there like, well, aren't you the therapy? Why is she going to therapy if she's doing?
No, I am not a therapist. Most of my long-term subs I've sent to therapy at one point or another because everyone has things they have to work through and talk to. I'm not there to listen to someone's trauma, their past. I can know the basics of that so I understand where they're coming from, but ultimately I'm not a therapist. And it is very important that people seek out therapy, friendships, connections, relationships outside of their service to me. I cannot be the be all end all for someone's world. That is unfair to put that responsibility on me.
Now gauging to the other individual, because he had a kind of messed up situation where he was in a conservative family and he was gay
Hmm.
and he was struggling to come out to his parents. And we're not going to go into details. I don't.
This is a more extreme one for sure. Some people will find this one kind of messed up.
And again, we're not judging. We only judge a little bit here. We got to put it
Yeah,
out
a
there.
little bit.
But he was in such turmoil and he was going back and forth with this idea of sending a pic to his mom of him giving fellatio to a guy, kind of as a FU to, hey, you've put me through so much pain that this is who I am. Leave me
And I
alone.
mean, also people just, all the MILF porn and the stepmom porn. There is a thing where people fetishize the idea of mother's sexuality, whether it's her getting to fuck the mother or being judged by her. And for someone who grew up in a very rural, conservative, evangelical Southern family, to this guy he was caught in this cycle of self hate, and every time I talked to him he'd talk about how much he hates being, I don't want to use slurs on here, but like an F slur. um he hates being gay, he hates that he can't stop sucking dick all the time, and he'll always go out and like go to the porn store and like go back to the back rooms and suck random dicks, and he feels so ashamed of this, and why can't he just be straight? And frankly, as a queer person, like I get so over the self-hate, especially with bisexual men or gay men who try to pretend to be straight. It can be very infuriating. And one day I just said to him, I was like, well, if you feel like you can't do that because of your family, maybe if you cut ties with your family. He's like, well, I can never, they won't let me. I've tried talking to my mom. I've tried telling her that I'm gay. And she doesn't listen. She just thinks, she says, no way, that's not true. Go pray with the Bible. And he's an adult man, he's in his 30s. So it's, but I was like, well, you have to do something extreme. And just kind of as a joke, a humiliation session, I said, well, what if you sent your mommy pictures of you at the glory hole? This became a thought he fixated on. And for like 6 months, we would do FinDom sessions where he would pay me hundreds of dollars to talk to me on the phone about this idea until finally he just did it. And he was immediately disowned. His family cut him off. Um,
Even if I love my son, I ain't care if you're gay or straight, but please don't send me that pic, man. Come on, that's not fair. But
I think if you loved your child, they wouldn't react this way. I mean, this individual is, listen, there are people who have healthy ways of thinking about BDSM, kink, fetish, and sexuality, and there are people who have unhealthy, fucked up fixations. This individual is one of the latter. Um, Even after that, he still approaches his sexuality with nothing but shame because his sexuality is shame. I don't know that unless he were to go through a long period of restricting himself from sexuality and try to go asexual for a while. I've tried to get him to just get on like gay dating apps and go date. Don't go to the glory hole. Date somebody. Like have a healthy relationship with a boy. It could be nice. Imagine just coming home and there's somebody there and you don't have to go to the glory hole. Um, but his mind comes from a place of shame. And I think for a lot of men, especially if they have bisexual or submissive leanings, because of our culture, I mean, it's across the world. Men think that they have to be alpha, they have to be strong, they have to be straight. And if they aren't those things, shame. And that shame can become internalized and then fetishized. And now their entire sexuality becomes about their own shame and their own self-hate. This is extremely unhealthy, but very profitable for certain women like myself. Um, I don't spend as much time talking to people who are caught in those cycles of self-hate and shame anymore because frankly, I just don't find it pleasurable or fun. And that's okay. I prefer to talk to people who want to explore kink, BDSM in healthy ways, in ways that are about healing, self-love, pleasure, and about exalting me. Because if someone feels ashamed or hates themselves when they speak to me, what does that say about how they think about me? I'm some sort of punishment that they use on themselves? No. I'm a goddess. I am gorgeous. I am fabulous. And spending time with me should make somebody feel good about themselves.
And you've always been vocal about that positive energy exchange of the back and forth. But his story just reminds me, not the same situation, but Rob Halford of Judas Priest had the same thing of trying to find his sexuality and not be as ashamed. And then his friend was like, you just need to date a gay guy. And then, oh, because every guy he was dating was on the spectrum of
Yeah.
bi and, in the closet.
Yeah.
So for him, I think you may have been the perfect person to speak with. Even though his obsession was unhealthy, you also have gone through that cynicism that the church has placed on
Yeah,
people with, hey,
definitely.
and et cetera. I didn't want to go too deep into this, but I had to ask. You did get sent to a conversion camp, and I'm well aware of how dangerous and how cruel
Yes.
and terrible those places have been. Even if it wasn't physical abuse, the psychological abuse that's basically messed people up for life. But when you showed up, you said you made it worse for them. And I kind of had to chuckle. I was like, I have to know what you did to give them help because even though I went to school for biblical studies, even though I'm still in the faith, I still play devil's advocate against people who
Hmm.
are using the Bible or the teaching of a religion ignorantly to hurt others.
Hmm.
So, what happened at that particular camp? And then since then, there's the 1 hour special with Summer Cole we got to talk about. But I wanted to know what you did to kind of give them hell.
So, just quick background, I grew up Roman Catholic. My extended family, who I'm not in contact with any longer, uh, are Roman Catholic. And for those who don't know, that is the evangelicals of Catholics. These are people who are hardcore. And I went to catechism classes. I got raised on Bible study and spending a lot of time with the church. And my parents, my parents didn't actually know that it was an anti-gay or a conversion type of camp. They just were told by the church, this is a camp for kids. And, it's easier than trying to feed me for the summer living in a rural area. So I'm like, hell yeah, take her. And I get there and I discover it's all a bunch of gay kids from different schools around the country who have been shipped out here to the middle of the forest to be told that being gay is bad, and that you're all troublemakers and you have to have your faith reestablished. Now, here's the thing. If you take a bunch of kids from rural towns who don't know any other gay kids, and then you tell them all, you're all gay. Well, I'm looking around, I'm like,
Copy.
sweet. I don't have to figure out, oh, am I gonna ruin a new friendship by trying to kiss this girl? We can just sneak off into the woods and kiss. And then I meet other girls who are like, I snuck weed in. So now we're sneaking off into the woods and smoking weed and playing with each other in the canoes out back. Because you introduced that. Now, of course, I can laugh about this, but it was an extremely fucked up experience. At one point, they put me in a tiny, imagine a doghouse sized chapel, but I was locked inside of it for an entire night and not allowed to sleep because I was supposed to be praying to Mary all night long to solve my gayness and my troublemaking ways. This is just one of the many ways they were extremely abusive to the kids who went there. Um, that said, when I got home that summer, I started walking into church and pretending like I was burning, or if I would cross myself with holy water, I'd be like, ah, it stings. Like the priest would give me catechism and I'd pretend like I'm choking, like it's poison. And they're like, okay, you can stop coming to church. Just don't, just go away. And I immediately started hanging out at the Wiccan bookstore. Like
Is that when you fell into tarot card reading as well?
that is when I started getting into tarot reading. I already had my first tarot were given to me by my aunt when I was 11, but by the time I was 15, I was full on ex-Catholic and learning about Wicca and other native religions and exploring other things. I don't consider myself a Wiccan now. That is a very modern form of paganism, which was invented by a man and all of that. But I do, I have several altars around my home and I pay respects to various deities. And, we can get into it when we talk about Kyaism, but that is part of what Kyaism is a channeling of ancient divine energy, not something that's just from within me, but me being a vessel for ancient divine energy to walk this earth. And throughout my career, I have used being an ex-Catholic to exorcise some demons myself. I have videos like this thing with Summer Cole you mentioned, but I've also, somebody just recently brought up to me like, oh, do you remember that time you fucked a Bible? I'm like, yes, I do remember that. Once a few years back, I did this really fun solo scene where I was at like an estate sale and I found a family Bible that was like 5 generations of notes inside this thing. It was a huge gilded well-worn old Bible had been used by this family and somebody was just selling it for a few cents at a fucking garage sale. So I was like, bet. I took that thing home and I absolutely destroyed it. I put on a huge strap-on tick, opened it up, and then just fucked the Bible to pieces, spit on it, stepped on it, rubbed my pussy on it, just desecrated that Bible. And it was so empowering and freeing and so fun. So one of my favorite scenes I've ever done. And I'm like, I have to do that again.
Back to the Summer Cole scene, which has been highlighted extensively in your interviews, where she was supposed to be I want to say, the virgin bride. Sorry.
It's just a bride. She's a bride wearing a full wedding dress, lace wedding dress. And she's Colombian, so in her little adorable Colombian accent, which I won't try to do, but you have to imagine, she's like, "Oh, I just got married, but my husband's so boring, and all he wants is missionary sex, and this is not satisfying me. God, please send someone to me to get me out of this boring, terrible marriage and give me good sex." But of course, God is not going to answer that prayer. I answer that prayer as the devil, full body latex, latex hood. And I challenge her. I was like, well, do you really want to be the devil's bride? Because this is going to be intense. It's going to be hardcore. And that goes into a 3-part full feature-length movie of her being extreme BDSM dominated in various positions of bondage, anal play, and it ends in her spread out on a leather bed while I spray cum lube on her, going, the power of Satan compels you, like spraying her in the shape of a cross with cum lube and then sliding our naked bodies on each other. It was epic.
For me, a lot of that is vaudeville with those concepts, those ideas. And it doesn't necessarily, because I've seen people like, how could God, anger at God, anger at God? And this more seems like an Alice Cooper thing where it's more the shock value.
Definitely. But she's also ex-Catholic and she came to me with this idea. And for both of us, it's a way to kind of act out our fantasies and play with what we've been taught is right or wrong. And I love that you bring up vaudeville because I actually come from like a circus and street performance background, something that I've done a lot when I was younger. And I love bringing kind of these very vaudeville classic good versus evil. Well, now we're going to make the evil good and the good bad. And let's switch it all around and play with those ideas. Uh, I think it's a really beautiful and fun thing to do.
I don't know if anybody's read 1984, Brave New World, but those books have that dichotomy. One book is what if sin is the actual release and the good, and then what if the other one's like what if reframing. It's always so fascinating to see how we interpret those things. But it does seem to me that those experiences you went through have kind of gauged for other people to try and have their release of this is my reality, this is where I stand.
Yeah.
But we got to also point out you did a hell of a job with the editing. You've been getting a lot of love, and that's from years of doing everything by yourself.
And that film is definitely a big part of why I won Fetish Content Creator of the Year at the XMAs this year, because I released that through Adult Empire and have my own store there, which is Video on Demand, which is the academy that gives out the awards, sees that the same as if I had released it wide release on DVD. And so that allows it to be in the running for these things because that award was not actually like a creator award and that it wasn't fan voted. That was decided by my peers in the industry and given to me. So that was extremely meaningful to me because that's recognition from my peers in the industry that I am creating top tier content.
From the Dom Award, where you went to the expo and you got the I forgot the word, excuse me. It was basically like you were the guest of honor. You got an
Yes,
award for your hard work in that community to going to
yes,
the expos and winning these awards, being nominated for these awards. I feel like one is a little bit more validating because it's hard to put a placement on someone saying, "Thank you, I appreciate your work," and then a group of your peers saying like, "Hey, you're the best of us." It
yes,
You feel a difference in that
yes.
dynamic?
As much as I mean, I appreciate the DomCon guest of honor was very sweet. But it's a guest of honor. There's like six guests of honor. And then I also this year at the Femdom Award, which is a newer award thing, I won Best Session Dom, which was pretty meaningful to me because I've been a session Dom for years, and that just speaks to my skills in person and my ability to that I've honed my craft, and I'm very good at the physical aspects, the skills, real life skills of BDSM. So that was very meaningful to me. But for longer than I've been a session dom, the first thing I started really doing in sex work where I was like, oh, I could support myself doing that is fetish content creation. And I I mean, I was truly over the moon. There's like a little video because I was like recording on my phone when the thing starts scrolling because it wasn't going to be an announced one. It's just like scrolled at the end. And I like see my name come up and I'm just like, I did it. I did it. Because like it's such a big deal to me to this it's my art. It's my art. Creating this media is my artistic expression. And that's why I've maintained such a level of control as a solo content creator. I do my own editing on 90% of my content, especially anything big like that. I I do the lighting. I handpick the photographers and the videographers. Every aspect of it is controlled by me. Like when I did that scene, I had the shot list. And while I'm performing, I'm also checking the shots, confirming that the lighting looks good, doing every little. If you know anything about film production and making a movie, I have made over 2,000 hours of films, which I have used to support myself and my family for nearly 20 years on my own. There are very few indie movie makers who could say the same. I am an extremely competent producer. I know what I'm doing, and my goals this year is to start producing films for other companies and outside of the adult arena, making movies in the indie film realm. Even though there's not as much profit in that, I just enjoy content and media production so much that I want to do more of it.
And just to put that in perspective for people who don't edit, one person told me if you have 2 hours worth of footage, you're supposed to multiply that by eight. But he said the easiest, cheapest route to come up with the math is you take a year, so you take 360 and multiply that by however much content's actually out there, and
Yep.
then that would be a closer, accurate time.
Yes.
Not accurate, but that's a great idea. So that'd be 7,200, that 7,200,000 hours you put into your art. I
Yeah.
think back to when you first saw the picture of the clowns, when you searched the clown pornography, you saw the ladies dressed up in clown. I think you have an appreciation for the printed record,
I
and
do really love physical media.
which we could
That's
get to the VHS tapes, you guys. The
I
CD,
have a huge collection of records, CDs, vinyl. I actually just talked about this on a podcast for Nerds After Dark like 3 days ago. Yeah, I have a huge collection of physical media, and one of the other goals I have over the next few years is to one host a gallery with some of the photography that I've done. A lot of my fans know I do a lot of high-end photography, and that is not people don't pay very much online for pictures. Um, but I mean, my Instagram, gets like a million hits every 30 days, and that's because the content I put on there is high end, gorgeous stuff. Working with people like Dean Capture, who's a well-known photographer in the adult arena, who does just like gorgeous, scrumptious lighting and soft focus boudoir photos. They're just so good. And I love working with people like that to create really gorgeous high-end stuff. And so I want to host a gallery with prints framed of my content that will go down like my idea for the gallery is to find a long, narrow gallery where there'll be photos on every side as you walk down. And at the end, a large, old-fashioned TV with a VHS with specially edited content playing on a loop.
Yeah, you should put that on tape too.
That's the plan. Start releasing DVDs. Last year I tried to do it myself. I bought like a DVD writer and a bunch of blank DVDs, and I made a DVD thing on my computer, and then I printed them out, and they won't play on DVD players. It's like not formatted right. And so I'm trying to figure out how to, it's a whole other skill I'm still researching, figuring out. Um, so yeah, I think that the thing for me to do is to find somebody. I have a few different contacts I'm working on right now to figure out pricing, but I'm probably going to go through a third party company and just have them help me print it out. So we're not sitting here at home experimenting, wasting my time. When somebody who knows how to make DVDs can just print them out for me.
And people don't understand how difficult it can be
Ah,
spiritually, where you know you got everything on paper, you did everything the directions say, and it's still not working out. You know, back to this idea of like now you want to do movies. Now you've been very vocal as well as how the multimedia, the world shows everything but the actual penetration in these films. So there's a market for a old school modern movie, but it just shows the sex in it. When it comes to the, I think it's the Okoji diagram. I may be saying that wrong.
Ikagi is a Japanese concept of balance in one's life, where if you think about what you do for work and is this something that's sustainable for you mentally, spiritually, financially. And if you think of a Venn diagram with four different circles, all meeting in the middle for one point of perfect balance. And one of those circles is, does this pay you enough money to live? The other one is, are you good at that job? The other one is, does it give back to your community? Does it fulfill something for your community, a need for other people? And does it do something for you spiritually? Does it fulfill you on an intimate, personal level? Because if any one of those things is missing, you will be out of balance. If you're doing something that you're good at and it fulfills your community and it fulfills you spiritually, but it doesn't pay you, can't do that. If you're not good at it, but it pays you and it does all these other things, you're going to struggle. There's a problem with each one of these if it's missing, but if you have all of those things, you can live in balance. And I really feel like what I do is that. And that's why I've been able to do it for 20 years, where for a lot of people who try doing this type of work, the average is 2.5 years. I've been
And
here for nearly 20.
when you finally figured out, like, oh, I'm in balance with the diagram, you mentioned that there was a point of time where you ha had to kind of turn on Kaya. You felt like you
Hmm.
get to the state where you're at now, and now it's just you're manifested this idea that you're always you. And to me, psychologically, what I've learned just from now credible sources is, people can have this idea of themselves, kind of like Brad Pitt and Edward Norton in Fight Club, and then they can
Mm,
achieve it. But when I do certain things, to me, I'm like, you know what? I was out of pocket. I did this, I did that, but it all still seemed like, no, that
mm,
was very much me in my essence. Could you kind of break down that idea of you changing from, oh no, I'm Kaya, the idea I want to be, from just where you were spiritually trying to get there? Because to me, it's like I turn it on, I turn it off, but it's still me. I don't see a shift.
mm.
How did that reconcile with the diagram?
I mean, I think that that reconciles a lot because, for me, when I was younger, I might have had some more self-doubt in who I am and what I want or what my boundaries are. I might have been, more concerned with how people perceive me or just have other issues with self-confidence, which is a very natural and normal thing to do. But over time, I just felt more confident, more sure of myself, more in myself. And being Kaya was a big part of that. It's very easy as a woman, as a queer person, as somebody who has alternate forms of spirituality. as somebody who's, an artsy clown tarot reader, to be like, where do I fit in this world? But being Kyaa gave me that place where I fit in, and showed me that I can make room for myself wherever I go, even if other people aren't going to make that room. I will clear the space, and that I don't need anyone to give me a seat at the table. I build my own. And because of that, I feel very much in my own self. I mean, I still have, I come home at the end of the day and I wash off all the makeup and I do all the things, but I'm still Kyaa. And one of the people I look to for this, like if I were to be like, who's a celebrity that you look to, it would be like Dita Von Teese. Um, because, people will be like, Dita, do you ever just wear sweats? And she's like, no, honey. Uh, because she is always Dita. The person that she was, the young vaudevillian street kid from Santa Monica that she was before she assumed the Dita-ness that she is now, that person is from her past and is not who she is now, because people can change who they are over time. It takes conscious effort. I mean, the same way I believe that if some guy's out there and he's like, I can't help that I'm a little bit of an asshole. Yes, you can. You can change those habits and you can change who you are on a fundamental level so that you never do those things again and you are a better, more conscientious person. But you have to genuinely want it. You have to genuinely work towards that. And yeah, I mean, I'm very much in my era and have been for some time now, and feel really secure and good in who I am and what I want and what I'm doing with myself.
And a lot of that is mentally getting stronger, not just with the world or dealing with situations, but truly coming to that peace of self. Mademoiselle, I always ask this as the last question. What's the best piece of advice somebody told you?
I say it's something from my own self. So I'm a little bit egotistical, but uh, when I when I was in college, I took a journalism class and I had to write an article and like give advice to people who might be reading this newspaper on like how to succeed, how to achieve, and how to get bigger. And at that point, I had already come from my small town, traveled the world, was going to university in a foreign country. I'm working two jobs. I'm doing it all. And I was extremely proud of myself already. Like I changed my fate. No one thought that I could get to where I was, but I did it anyway. And I said in this newspaper, I was like, shoot for the stars, and if you don't make it, you'll at least get to the moon. And that is still one of those things that I kind of, shoot for the stars. Make impossible goals for yourself. And just know, even if you don't quite get there, you will get further than you ever would have gotten if you had just been like, well, this is what I've got. I have to stay on the planet. No, you don't. Make impossible goals for yourself and then put action to achieve that. And you might just be surprised at how far you get.
AKA believe in yourself, people. Shoot for the stars. At least you'll hit the moon. If I hit the moon, I'd be pretty happy. That's where I wanted to go anyway. But guys, I cannot express how fun and how engaging that was with the goddess Kyaa Chimera. Remember, you can find her on Instagram, Kyra_Chimera. That's where all the fashion's at. You're gonna see what I'm talking about with the cosplay and the
Mm,
modeling. She got it rocked. And then you can go to X, which is Goddess Kyaa with the Kyaa. And then you can also go to TikTok, Goddess Kyaa as well, Kyaa. Mademoiselle, thank you so much. I cannot express how incredibly in awe of your life I am. You've done it all, you've seen
yeah.
it all.
Thank you. I appreciate you very much.
And then for everybody else, be smart, be mindful, rock on. Go follow Miss Kyaa, Goddess Kyaa, Mommy Kyaa, however y'all want to do that BDSM style. Rock on. Ninja out.
This is Kyaa Chimera. I am here with John the Ninja today for a very fun interview. Then you can go look me up. I am on all the socials and all the sites. Follow my fan club. Just Google my name, Kyaa Chimera, Kyaachimera, and you will find all of my fun, spicy videos.
Woo, baby, you listen to John the Ninja. Oh, your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.